Call to order the special budget meeting for Monday, June the 17th.
He already did.
What's that?
He came out of executive session.
Okay.
Yeah. People on the front.
As soon as I get everything off. We all set? We all ready? Okay. We're gonna have a short prayer and then we'll do the pledge of allegiance. Lord, in this contentious time, we hope that you will guide us and lead us towards a fair and equitable situation with the budget. And make sure that we do this with the residents of the town and with the residents of the island and the residents or employees of the PSD and the services that are rendered. In your son's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Brown Crouch. Commissioner Clifford. Here. Commissioner Engelmann. Here. Commissioner Baldwin.
Here.
Commissioner Platt. Commissioner Colston.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Review the freedom of information, please.
Freedom of Information Act. In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of this meeting and this is notified for all news media and persons requesting notification.
Thank you. The only thing on the agenda for this special budget meeting is the first reading for ordinance 2019-002 to adopt a budget for 2019 through June 30th, 2020. I need to call a halt. I've just been reminded that I said I was going to be introducing everybody. And Mr. Weiss, since you know them a lot better than I would, if you would introduce them for me, please.
Sure, it's Sam Howell, our bond attorney. Mr. Cannon, right? Cannon. Yeah, he is our financial advisor. You all know financial advisor?
What's his last name?
What's his name?
Cannon. I'm sorry, I didn't pronounce it as well as I should have.
See, you know, still
He-
on.
That's all right, I misspell it every other time.
He's
Say it
imported
again.
for both.
John Canny. John
Canton.
Canny.
C-A-N-N-E-Y.
Thank you.
All right. You all know Bob George, engineer, and you got to meet Thomas Road.
So, I move that we adopt ordinance 2019-02 for the budget year of July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And I'm sponsoring this, so,
Second.
and seconded by Mr. Wood. And I'm gonna do this again, folks. We have 5 experts that are able to give information. We have 4 of them here tonight. And I'm asking them if they would give us a little bit of information about what it is they do for the PSD and what their recommendations are as far as what we should be doing.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in this
Can
vision.
you please come in the middle so I can see?
We can use the
look at
podium
your
if you need
face?
Make a motion. So, since he is our expert for bond,
I'm the bond counsel.
I'm
so
gonna say it the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm the district bond counsel, which means I give legal advice on bond and finance matters to the commission.
So when there's a motion made,
He will be able to answer the questions directly rather than having to come going back and forth. So, if you tell us what it is, do your thing. Right.
that's, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Canny?
thanks everybody for the kind invitation. John Canny, I'm the Managing Director of Municipal Advisors Group Boston. We've been working here happily, had the opportunity to work here since 1985. Enjoyed all of our work with all of our clients. South Carolina. What we principally do is help our clients to design, size, and structure their bond insurances the best fit and suit the ability to pay and the needs to fund infrastructure in a timely way and the most cost-effective way that we can define for. We also, in regard to that, work extensively with rating agencies and seeking to obtain the highest attainable ratings, which have the impact of lowering the cost of funds to the borrower. With a high rating, your interest rate's going to be low. With a low rating, your interest rate's going to be a little higher. That's the principle, those are the four principles. And we had a great, successful, and very pleasing outcome in 2014 when Sam's firm to help the approach to the public market. 2014 revenue bonds. It started out with the first maturity costing a 0.3% rate of interest. Now went up to 0.5%. So capping out at 1.03%. For our first time in the market and a first rating, that was a great outcome. We've got the native strength here.
Okay.
Can we get to ask them any questions or do we just introduce them?
Right now, they're introduced.
What was your question?
Sorry about that.
They did.
Yes, George?
My name is Bob George. I'm the president of G. Robert Jones Associates, consulting engineers. I was a former member, chairman of this commission back in the 70s.
You want to take to that?
I wouldn't buy it. I have, over the years, I have provided consulting, my firm has provided consulting engineering services to the district for probably 2 decades. We are currently involved in some very large wastewater projects on the island, in the process of upgrading the transmission facilities and replacing facilities that were designed in the late 70s and constructed in the early 80s that have seen their useful life a long time ago. And we're currently involved in the project for a large force main that's being installed and also designing upgrades for pump station 2, pump station 22, and pump station 34.
This is when we work on the fire station.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're also civil consultants on the fire station.
Watch your work.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rhodes? You, one more time.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Thomas Rhodes. I'm an attorney with Thurman, Kirshner & Timms. We are interim counsel for the James Allen Public Service District, providing advice and help to the district and the commission in regards to matters of potential litigation.
And last but not least, Ms. Helen McFadden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Helen McFadden. I'm a professional registered parliamentarian.
And she's my conscience tonight. Please do not let me get off track or on the wrong track for sure. Okay, we've had a motion, we've had a second, we've had the introduction of our hired expert, and now I'm gonna open this up for discussion. Anybody have any questions about the budget?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's been great talk about the 13%, that's the magic number on James Allen, 13%. 13% increase in the administrative salary. But I asked you to look on the page with administration at the number of items that are down, 42%, 6.5%, 17%, 10%. On the other page, it's, everything is down. 66%, 47%, 32%, 87%. I think at some point we're kind of choking on a gnat, everything has gone up, utilities and gas and maintenance. But we made a big change in our outside vehicle repairs that, is gonna be done in-house. And I just feel like somewhere along the line, we're choking on a gnat. Understand there's a few amendments that need to be made, but I just think we're harming people that are waiting on their paycheck by not voting on the budget.
I think this would be a good answer. Ms. Bean, would you be able to explain why the 501 for administration?
Don't you have a motion for that? Changing the 501?
Yeah, and we can wait. I have a question for our financial director and anybody else out there. We own 3 pieces of property. One piece is 1/3 of an acre on Folly Road, a busy place. We have had it since 1972. We've never used it. We have 2 other pieces of property. One about 5 acres zoned residential and 1 acre commercial. We have no plans to use these properties, and I think we ought to sell it. And we've already had the 2 piece properties on Dill's Bluff. We've already had a firm offer of $1.2 million. I think we can get more, but would you recommend we advertise and sell these properties to help our budget?
Who was that addressed to?
Mr. Canning.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
I don't know enough about that part of your asset base. Okay. I'm not enough in real estate. And,
Well, I'm not asking about the price, but do you think we should hang on to something that we're not gonna use and it's worth money and we can get money for it?
as a general matter of principle, that's something that you could certainly examine, but you could also.
Will it hurt our bond rating, Mr. Bond Attorney?
Excuse me, just a minute. Ms. White, are you gonna be able to pick him up with his answers to that? Okay, I hate to do this, but we need to get you closer to the microphone so we're on the table here.
My voice doesn't carry very well.
Yes.
Okay.
Who is the offer from? That's what I want to know.
Who is what?
Who's the offer
A
from?
lot of real
What
estate agents-
she's not talking about
No.
this property, she's
The
talking
deal,
about.
what, 1.2 million?
We don't know, the real estate agent didn't say, and sometimes people don't want you to know. That's why they go through.
Well, that's what concerns me, if they don't want you to know, I just sold my mother's house, I knew who was buying it, I knew what their offer was.
But I'm asking the
Okay,
bond
hold it,
attorney
hold
now.
it. Point of order, go ahead, I'm sorry.
My question was to the bond attorney,
Mi-
would that
Commissioner
hurt our
Woolsey,
bond selling this thing?
Commissioner Woolsey, please. I gave this to Mr. Platt, he has the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just a little uncomfortable. You're having invited 5 experts, which are in fact lobbyists. I have total utmost respect for all of them. I hold them all in high esteem, especially Mr. George, who I've known many years. I take my hat off to him for serving our country the way he did, landing airplanes and carriers and things. If you were going to do this, I think it's a promise of you to allow us to invite members of the community, our constituents who are outraged with the budget was passed a year ago.
I know, I was one of them, remember?
Well, I don't doubt that there could be some serious negative ramifications, not passing the budget as it is. I understand there could be serious negative ramifications that can only sort of reduce. but to use Mr. Maryland Country's word again, prerogative. It's our prerogative to be wrong. We strive to be right, but it's our prerogative to be wrong. Not intentionally, but it may happen that we're wrong sometime. And I think at least some of us are listening more to what the constituents said very loud and clear a year ago, and giving that perhaps a higher priority than what all the experts in the world would say to us. And if there's to be blood, let the blood be on our hands for not passing that budget as you wish. Thank you.
May I answer that, please? The reason that I called these experts in were because they made a lot of the recommendations for the financial numbers that you're seeing in the budget. And I have been talking to everybody else around here, and listening to the experts. With the amount of motions that are relegated to being made, what I see is that there is a tremendous amount of money that is being reduced as far as our revenue side of our budget, with not an equal amount as far as what needs to be changed as far as the expense side of our budget. Our administration, or our department heads, have already reduced the budget by $250,000. And I feel, now this is my personal feeling, and you guys will have to admit that last year I was one of the people that was screaming loudest about the increase in the percentage of the millage. I feel that our experts have told us time and time again that if we do these motions that have been presented, that we're gonna have a huge problem with the financial aspect of the PSD. We will have increased interest if we can get loans, if we can get bonds. Our interest rates are going to be sky high. And that's one of the things that I asked our experts to be able to come and answer questions on.
Mr. Chairman, did you?
I'm not finished yet, please. I want to make sure that we're doing this according to all of the rules and regulations in FOIA, so that we don't have any legal problems coming back from this. And a lot of the motions and a lot of the things that have been presented are questionable as far as what is correct, what is not, whether it's going to be legal, whether or not it meets the state and FOIA's Freedom of Information standards. And I want to make sure that we don't get into trouble on that aspect of it. We have got a contractor right now who's waiting on notice to proceed. And it's going to cause us problems if we don't follow through on what the process that we've already started. It's going to cost us extra money. It's going to cost us extra money on material, on the building process. It'll allow him to, where he can come back and request for more money for his contract. And right now, our departments are going through trying to get the bid lowered from what it was already put through to it. So I want the people who know the numbers, rather than the if-then kind of question and answer. I want them to be able to say, okay, this is wrong and this is wrong because, or this is right and this is right because. I want to have it so that everybody understands the repercussions of what happens if the budget is actually cut. And I asked Mr. Gaines to do an account of if we pass all of these motions, what it will end up costing the PST out of the district. Ms. Gaines, did you have that numbers readily available?
I don't have that number available, but there's a lot of misleading information in there. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense in those amendments to justify that number.
Okay.
It was a rather large number if we took all that stuff out.
Mr. Chairman, I want to know, did our experts that you brought here tonight, have they all received a copy of my 10 proposed amendments to the budget? Have you all actually seen it? Have you seen all 10 of them?
Yes.
And you have no opinion, I guess. You think that my 10 amendments, any or all, will be bad for the district financially and would be bad for our bonds? Would it be bad for,
From my perspective, I'm a bean counter. Show me a bunch of beans and I'll count them very well for you. I can't tell you what to do about your infrastructure. That's for other experts to advise on. But timing is a very significant issue for the bond. When you go to market, what action you take in preparation for going to market.
you're just concerned about bonds and not reducing the budget has nothing to do with bonds, do they?
Well, if you reduce your liquidity, all you have to do is look at the Standard & Poor's rating comments from.
Well, explain liquidity to me.
Unencumbered cash that you can spend to cover a shortfall that was unforeseen, or a new expense that looms because you have a storm or some other event.
We have plenty of money in our unencumbered fund, our rainy day fund, and we also have another fund for operating expenses for 3 months. And I'm not proposing any changes to that. My next question is, Mr. George, I propose that we ask that the replacement project be reduced by 10% of, the expenditures for the fire station be reduced by 10%. Can we do value engineering and bring the cost of that station down?
Before you do that, Mr. George, I want to tell you, I just said a few minutes ago that our negotiator is working with the contractor and with the architect, working towards getting a reduction. That's a value process.
But we're just gonna reduce it. We have a projected thing, and it was the contractors went over it. We're just trying to get it down to there. I wanna reduce it more.
Well,
And I'm asking Mr.
it's being
George
worked on.
if we can have
Do
it
you have a
reduced.
specific motion for that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, make your motion, we'll get it.
We've already have a motion on the floor, Mr. Chair.
This is gonna make thing.
We have a motion for the ordinance, and you can amend the ordinance. Am I right, Megan, with that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to call the question on the basic motion.
Okay,
Nobody seconded.
it did get seconded.
The motion, yes, sir. Ms.
Mrs.
Wilson?
Engelmann seconded the motion for passing the budget.
What do you say?
The chair had assigned the floor to Ms. Wilson. And Mr. Platt had not yet been assigned the floor.
I have the floor, and you cannot interrupt me for that. And you asked me to make an amendment, and then I shall.
Okay,
I move to reduce expenditures for street signs and lighting, line number 528.01 by $5,000 to zero.
Second.
say it again one more time.
I move to reduce expenditures for street signs and lighting, line number 528.0 by $5,000 to zero. Reduce it by $5,000 to zero.
Second.
Oh, well, hang on just a minute. That is inappropriate because that's a new motion that you're bringing up. It's not an amendment. So we already have a motion
I
on the floor.
move to amend the budget to reduce expenditures for street signs and lighting Isn't
for
it
5,000 to 0.
From 5,000 to 0.
Okay, and that was seconded by Commissioner Clifford.
Didn't we hear something on this from the attorney?
Yes, and he
Yes,
said
we
that was
have.
okay.
But we have a legal motion to amend the 2020 budget to reduce 528.01 from 5,000 to 0. And it's been seconded by Commissioner Clifford, so this is a second to the motion. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, I call for the question, the basic motion, and if that's not in order for the parliamentarian, then I move to adjourn.
You can't do that in the middle of something.
Yes, you can.
He was recognized, and he does have the right to close the debate, which is, he's calling the question. He wishes to close the debate. So, do you have a second? The question is, does he have a second? And do you wish to close the debate all the way back to the main motion, which is first reading?
Yes.
Does that mean we're not voting on it first?
If I'm reading this correctly, Mr. Platt has moved to close debate on the amendment, and by virtue of that, back to the main motion to.
Oh, so we're voting. We're back to
We're
the
voting
voting.
on that.
I second. I don't
Seconded
vote
by
to adjourn,
Commissioner
but
Engelmann.
I second it.
What do you vote? I'm confused on what we're voting on. Hold on.
Very first vote would be on closing the debate.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
No.
Commissioner Clifford,
No.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
No.
Commissioner Woolsey.
No.
Motion fails 3 to 4.
Okay. So we have not closed debate. Is that correct?
Okay, I need to ask a question, because we've heard it many times. She's talking about the 528, the street sign. Within our Act of 498, it says we do street signs in the, I think it's 16, name all streets in the district in according with recommendation of Charlton County Planning Board and promulgate a numbering system and purchase and erect street name markers. So I would think it'd have to go back to the House for them to knock this out. Would that not be the parliamentarian?
Let's ask our other attorney.
I just
I
want-
will in just a second.
What I just wanted to say is that her motion addresses a line item in the proposed budget for this upcoming year. It is not in any way altering what our duties are, what they may be, or what they cease to be. Nothing in 16 has changed. We are trying to get money back into the pockets of the voters on James
I don't
Island, the
dispute
public
that,
service
but if we
district,
take the
and there's
non-
$5,000,
5,000.
excuse me,
This is-
and this is
Okay.
$5,000 that's on, that we can put back into the budget where it may not hurt our taxpayers.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
Commissioner
Well,
Engelmann?
if your street sign gets knocked down and broken, and we have no money in the budget to fix it, do the street sign fairies come and fix it?
That's going to be addressed in another meeting, I'm sure.
Yes, we will address that later.
Any other discussion?
Well, I would like to say yes, thank you, because, in a way, yeah, I mean, what you're saying, what Commissioner Clifford is saying, it makes complete sense. And while some had to be removed from the proposed amendment, from the written document, they're already, we have a plan of what we perhaps could be doing. So the street signs, which a lot of them need repair anyway, that is something that would still be accomplished. It's just it would be through an arrangement that is made. So it's not like, oh, street signs down, we're screwed, the island, doesn't have signs. Like, it'll be, that's the lighting, all that. It's not gonna be like, oh, no money would go from, it would just not be from us.
Well, I don't
So that's
dispute
why,
that,
yeah.
I really don't, but I understand the town's coming in with their contract to do street sign, and we still have that duty in the Act 498.
Well, the problem with that is, number one, that right now it's a one-sided contract. We have not had our legal department look at it and approve the contract with the town. And this is what I almost brought up earlier. This is from our interim, district attorney. If the PSD and the town desire to enter into an agreement of this nature, I would like for it to have a good bit more detail so that there is no confusion over what the parties' rights and responsibilities are under the agreement. Now, it just came in this afternoon, I haven't seen it off of my computer yet. I would advise against signing a version of this little detail absent further discussion. This is from our,
But he makes no mention of the budget in that final sentence. It doesn't say the budget. It just
no,
says-
but the thing about it is, what Commissioner,
Houston?
I know I was getting to say, man, I knew that was the wrong thing to say.
But I
What
don't,
Commissioner, just a minute, this is what Commissioner Poston just said, is that there is an agreement that somebody else is gonna come in and do this. And we have not signed an agreement with this, and the rules state that it has to be an agreement from one municipal organization to another.
I get all that. But if for somehow it fails this agreement with the town, next month or whatever, we can go back and amend the budget and put that money back in there. But since we're planning on doing this with the town,
We are? We
I-
haven't had an agreement yet.
we can
haven't
work on
had
that
our-
later. We just need to take this out of the budget right now. And then we'll,
Why can't we take it out of the budget at second reading if we've gotten the legal?
why can't we do it now? It's just $5,000 for God's sake.
Okay, so if it's just $5,000, why are we being pushed to do it? What is the rationale that the town of James Island wants these
I would
signs?
like to show the citizens of James Island we're working to try to reduce this budget. Even though it's just $5,000, I'd like to show them something.
Yes.
Well,
If I may,
yes, ma'am.
please, yes. That is why I stated that. Yes, we would not be moving forward, like saying, okay, so now it's on to the town. That is when we would be able to meet with the attorney, we'd be able to speak with the town and make sure that everything before it is finalized, before we have it all pushed to their side of taking care of it, it could be discussed. It wouldn't be like because, oh, if we reduce the expenditure for street signs and lighting, that doesn't mean that it's like, oh, so now it's brushed off of our hands completely. I mean, that's saying that now we will be moving forward to accomplish this. And yes, because you see all these emails that we've gotten today, yes, Hartley, and you see,
Yeah, I saw
but,
that.
okay, did you see all the ones from the people saying, excuse me, but you all have claimed that you're going to be making changes, why isn't it happening? So, why not try and move forward a bit, making some?
Okay, just out of curiosity, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, let me tell you, I don't dispute what the schools is doing, there's a lot of legwork into it, but we're looking for a basic 2 mil reduction, $220,000. So you're looking at the fire department right there, $800-something. So you accomplish that times 4, but I think the nickel and diming thing is gonna be the thing that chokes us, you know, $5,000. Yeah, it's a lot of money to some people that make minimum wage, but negating $5,000 thing, we have to work a long time to get up to 2 mil reduction.
Okay, so my question on this is right now, if we do reduce this, and then we come back later and we decide because it's not being done, so we have to pick it back up, and we increase the budget again, what kind of flack are we gonna get from having to add money to the budget?
I think we got plenty of money in a rainy day fund to cover $5,000.
Well, okay,
We got money in unencumbered funds. We got a couple million in there. I think we can handle $5,000.
well, I go back to the same question. Why are we fighting so hard
Let's go ahead and vote on this.
over $5,000?
Call for the
And what is the agenda, what is the agenda on fighting this to get it done? When we have a perfectly good department who has done over 300 signs, 300 signs.
Chairman, I'm ready to vote.
But I think
I'm
there's
in
a
the middle of
conflict of interest
I'm in
here.
the middle of a statement, so if you hold on just a second.
I think there's a conflict of interest. I don't dispute her motion, a lot of work has gone into it. But I think Ms.
Call for
Woolsey
the
made the
question.
motion with her husband, the one that's presenting the
Call
contract.
for the question.
We're not calling the question yet, I'm in the middle of the sentence. But with her husband, he turned around, fair play. But I think it's a conflict of interest for her. You can have Marilyn making her, Marilyn or Meredith, and that's, I think that's not a god awful thing, but I think there's a conflict of interest for a commissioner making the motion when her husband directly benefits from it, being the mayor of the town.
That's not the motion at hand. The motion at hand was to reduce the line item by $5,000. If we're nowhere near even having a discussion about something that we're not even discussing yet. All I'm saying is I'm trying to find $5,000 to put back into the pool so that we don't have to hit, because we can't do the millage thing.
Call for the
Until we-
question.
Okay, any other
Call
discussion?
for the question,
That's
please.
fine.
Okay, Ms. White?
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford.
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
No,
Commissioner Laughlin,
No.
Commissioner Platt,
No,
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3.
I move to amend the budget,
That's
Mr.
a-
Chairman.
Just a minute,
Chairman,
just a minute.
I had my,
I saw you, Mr. Platt.
I moved to adjourn.
I second that, because we could sit here and diddle daddle. I'd love to vote yes on the first proposal, and I will vote yes, but I,
Is there discussion on whether to adjourn? Okay. We have a
Commissioner
motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
No.
Commissioner Clifford,
no,
Commissioner Engelmann,
yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
I can't believe I'm saying this, no.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
No.
Commissioner Woolsey.
No.
Motion
Okay, so
fails.
we're back on the agenda now. And I want to remind everybody that we need to either pass or fail first reading tonight, and if we fail a first reading tonight in any shape or form, then we have some definite financial problems that we'll be looking at as face to face. Okay, so we have a motion right now to pass the budget, and it's been seconded, and it's on the table. Any other, yes, ma'am?
Mr. Chairman, we didn't get a budget, so it tells me that you did not change the budget. You did absolutely nothing on the, budget. We sent the budget back twice, that we wanted change. So apparently, you didn't do it. Am I correct?
The way you're phrasing that is incorrect.
Okay, well, what? Tell me.
I submitted it to the administration. I sat down with them, we ran through the different areas of the budget, and they have already cut $250,000 out of the budget. That is over 2 mills. It's on the expense side rather than the revenue side, but it is over 2 mil cut in the budget. So it is a neutral, no increase, no decrease as far as the budget is concerned, 0 mil increase or decrease. So I left it where it is.
So what I'm hearing from you, that you did absolutely nothing, even
No,
though
ma'am.
we asked you.
That's not what I
Wait,
said.
Wait, let me finish. We have sent that budget back twice, and we asked you to revise the budget. So what I'm hearing, you did absolutely nothing, and you are just, what?
How many times and how many different ways do I have to say that it has been reviewed 4 times now, and there are not enough adjustments in there to come to the 2 mil decrease in revenue that this group is asking for. And if you continue with this, we are looking at huge, dramatic financial problems for the PSD, and that's the reason that I brought in the experts. We can let them talk about the different points that they've got. But it has been reviewed 4 times. We cannot come up with different changes on it. And the decrease is already in there.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of the people that was screaming the loudest about the 30.
Remember that, Mr.
Just a
Chair.
minute,
That's beside the point.
just a minute. I'm one of the people that was screaming about the increases that you're talking about. And sitting down with the budget this time around, I cannot find any way to make the adjustment. They have moved money from one side to the other as far as salaries is concerned, so that it shows some of the decreases you're asking about. They have, can't even remember all of them. They cut the equipment replacement. They've cut to the point, actually, we're getting ready to put our services in jeopardy. And because of that, we'll be putting some of the people on the island because they won't have the equipment to come and respond to. So that's the reason I left what they submitted to me alone.
Well, like I said, I am not happy. We have people.
I'm not happy about it either, but that's the way it is.
And so you did absolutely nothing. We didn't even get a budget for this meeting. Look, what you did before, we sent it back to you because we weren't happy. So you just keep sending us the same thing over and over, expecting to get, I am sorry. You didn't do anything. We have tried to give you some alternatives, but you rejected it.
They did, Mr. Platt.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clarifying, please, you mentioned that it cut $250,000 from the budget, but that's not reflected apparently in any millage decrease. I don't follow you.
I will explain. Are you finished, sir?
Yes, the question, please, I'll request to clarify that.
Go ahead.
The staff, like, I used to work for Buckley County government. We always ask for the money. And what the staff has done is asked for more money. And they actually told us at the previous meeting, they had wanted to increase our millage again. But they were, remember my sarcastic remark? I said, but they were willing to bring it back down and keep it the same. But the staff wanted more money, but they were willing to cut back and just stay with the current millage. But the staff wanted more, and I can tell you I work for government, and we always wanted more too. We wanted more equipment, we want new equipment, we want more money, we want more salaries. But in Berkeley County, we hardly ever got it.
So it sounds like then, the $250,000 was not in any finalized line, but a reduction of $250,000 of what had been requested by the various parties.
Well, let me see if I can do a little on this. The fire department took $145,000 out of their budget. That comes with fire engine? No, support vehicles.
3 positions.
That's what I wanted to add to it a second ago, is when you look at the fire department and the operations and maintenance, they lost 82%. Okay, when you call a fire truck, you got a fire at your house, you want a truck that can run to get there. And you want to, the safety factor and the fire suppression supply cut $23,000. I just don't wonder, I have to wonder, how do we expect our fire department to act really professional when we're paying them peanuts?
Well, why couldn't other departments, I thought the fire department did a great job of whittling down the budget, but the other departments didn't.
Well, I don't disagree there, but the thing about it is to me, you don't cut one of the strongest departments in our budget by that much. And somewhere along the line, somebody's got to make concessions if they want to get paid. But I don't agree with cutting their maintenance by $82,000.
Well, now, I can answer that real quickly. You have to remember that the maintenance that they were doing on the older engines that we had going, we're coming out of our fleet and maintenance department. Since we have new vehicles, they have less work that has to be done on them, and that's the reason that their cost on repairs is lower.
Well,
Because we have new
I
vehicles.
don't- But you put that in the budget. I'm just worried about not fully funding our fire department and then somebody needing the fire
Well,
department.
that's three positions that are, put on hold, that are actually, that have been given up.
Yeah, but we have people working double duty all the time. Every
Yeah, we
time they
do.
work one day, they know somebody's to say, you gotta work tomorrow 24 hours.
Well, that's a general problem with turnover.
Say that again?
That's a problem with turnover. That's
Oh,
why we have it.
I know, but I think we need a fully funded fire department.
Well,
Then
where,
how are we gonna cut
yes, ma'am,
early?
That was Kathy.
I heard,
No, that's not.
I'd like to make another motion to amend the budget. I
Where
move,
are
are we through with discussion?
We're discussing the vote. Is what we're discussing.
Right.
And I called a question, it's time to vote.
Okay.
I have a comment. So if the budget on the first reading passes, then if there's any further debate to be taken up at the second reading of that, how is that still not a financial problem? Because we reached the deadline by the filing date, aren't we still in just as much turmoil as first or second, it doesn't matter?
Yep.
Can't you schedule another meeting that week if it?
Would you clarify that with the parliamentarian, please?
But we haven't called a question on the floor. We're not supposed to be doing anything.
Commissioner Amy called a question about
I don't think
passing,
there's.
passing,
The
yes, there is,
discussion.
it's passing the budget. Whether yes or no on passing the budget. My motion.
And that's why my question is a follow-up to your motion.
Mr. McFadden?
If I
Next
might,
up,
Mr.
roll
Chairman,
call.
if I might, Mr. Chairman, what my notes reflect is that there has been a series of questions and answers between several of the commissioners and yourself, but that you recognized Ms. Wilson, and you had not recognized Ms. Ingram.
So Ms. Woolsey can put a motion in to amend the budget, right?
She had sought recognition and returned to her before Ms. Ingram spoke.
Okay,
Would you comment on, I thought we were on the verge of voting, so is the proper then to interrupt the voting with number proposed amendment?
According to my notes, Mr. Platt, you were having a colloquy. There was no motion other than the main motion, which is first reading. You were having a colloquy that was initiated after your motion to adjourn failed. After that discussion, during which several people were not recognized, they simply jumped out and talked. Ms. Woolsey sought again to actually be recognized. She said, Mr. Chairman. Then, Ms. Engelmann jumped in and wanted to call the question, which is what she said. There has not been a second to that, but she had not gotten recognized. And you need to be recognized in order to make any motion.
Will you recognize me?
I have Ms. Woolsey, according to what was just said, Ms. Woolsey still has the floor.
I move to amend the budget, the 2020 budget, to reduce total expenditures on Fire Station 1 replacement project by 10%.
I second it. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Wise.
I ran this dollar amount by the Veolia firm. They're not here, but they do understand the desire to reduce the budget, and that's what they've been working with the contractor on. When I gave her this amount, she said that that would be a redesign.
Say that again?
It would be a redesign of the fire station as it is today. That amount, $820,000.
So,
It's information only, you still can vote and do whatever you want, but that's just information.
Could I change my amendment to this impact and reduce it to 5%?
You would first wish to withdraw your amendment, with the permission of everybody else.
With y'all's permission, I will withdraw the amendment and I will make it again, this time, reducing the cost by 5%. So I move to amend the 2020 budget to reduce total expenditures on Fire Station 1 replacement project by 5%, which would be approximately $400,000.
Will you take a piggyback on that and do a 2.5% reduction?
Right, we need a second first before we can.
Second.
Okay, now.
Will you amend it to 2.5, which
No, I'm
is
staying with
200,000, which is 1 mil?
I'm gonna stay firm on 5% reduction. I think it can be done. With
Mr.
value
George?
engineering.
Mr. George?
Yes.
What kind of problems on design is that gonna cause?
Mr. Chairman, I'm one of 5 consultants involved in the design of the fire station. We are only doing the civil and the environmental part. A $400,000 reduction in that project, I can't speak for the OE. I know that we went through the budgeting process with them. They had a budgeting consultant that went at great lengths through that. Project was put out for bids, the project was bid, it has a 60-day bid window. That bid is good for 60 days. I think about half of that is already gone. I'm not gonna speak for the OEO for 5%, but 5%, $400,000 coming out of that, with what little I know about the total project, I know a lot about the site project. It's gonna have a major, significant impact. There's gonna be something pulled out. There's no free lunch. So it's $400,000 of space, $400,000 of equipment, $400,000 of purpose of that building that's going to be pulled out of that structure. If it is more than what can be determined in a reasonable length of time, and sort of going back to an early comment, my understanding that the contractor needs to have a letter of intent to enter into a contract before he can approach his subcontractors and suppliers and negotiate with them to value engineer the project, to attempt to make that much savings. But for 30 days, in order to do that, at the end of the 60 days, that contractor can walk. He can take his bid bond and go. And what that'll mean is that at least you'll have to rebid the project and go through the process of that and the expense. And that expense is not at the fault of the architect. That expense is at the wishes of the district. So that expense will be borne by the district. If it would require redesign to eliminate space, eliminate utility, eliminate equipment, eliminate systems, then the district would have to bear the cost of the redesign and the whole process of rebidding. So if it had to be rebid out of a 5% reduction, you might net half of that, and you would have lost a lot of time. Today's environment, bidding anything is a nightmare. Materials and workmen, all we have to do is look around this island in the city. You can't find enough people to work, you can't find materials, material costs are sky high. So, I'm not telling you a bird in the hand, but this day just getting competent contractors to bid a project is difficult. We're doing it on $10 million projects. It's a tough thing to do. Maybe 400,000 can be pulled out, I don't know. But there's going to be a price to pay to go through that exercise. I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Well, I just have one. You mentioned at the beginning of what you were saying, reduce the size and the space on it. To me, that means it's gonna reduce the functionality of the building.
No free lunch, something's gotta
Okay.
give.
Mr. Chairman.
No, ma'am, I'm still in the middle of talking to Mr. George. If it reduces the functionality of the building, the easiest part of the functionality that could be reduced on it would be the fact that it's the fire department headquarters. Because that would be the chief and maybe one bay coming out of it as far as the training bay and so on like that. In the process of that would allow us to use our Dill's Bluff property where we could set up, since we want to do a new fire department, new headquarters fire department. We want to do a new headquarters for the PSD. So what we could do would be we already own the property, so we would not have to have cost of the property to purchase. We could use our 2012 design for the layout for moving everything over there.
Yes, sir.
Would that seem to be a functional
That's an
choice?
option the commission has. The problem that I face, and this commission faces now, is we don't know what 5% impact will have on the fire station. There's no way to determine that. Even if the design architect team were in this room, they could not tell you what they would have to consider, this give and take to reduce that building cost by that much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Clifford?
In light of the,
Thank you.
Thank you.
in light of the information bestowed upon us earlier in regards to permanent changing facilities, land as such, unless it's a line item, you can move it from one column to another easily, is the way I think it was put. This does not sound like that kind of move. This sounds like we're trading real close to something that we had to discuss earlier.
Mr. Todd, you had, I thought you were saying something. Ms. Raven?
Mr. George and the rest of you, I want it for the record, since I talked to the architect, she called me in October. I told him I was adamantly against a wood-sided fire station using exotic Brazilian rainforest wood. She also wanted to put a deck, I don't know what for, out of exotic wood that's high priced. I went to Buck Lumber, I looked at the prices, and I'm opposed to you cutting down any part of the rainforest in Brazil. But she didn't listen to us. She didn't listen to us. I told her repeatedly that things would happen in November, the election would show that people were not happy with this $8 million fire station. She did not listen to us. Have we asked for value engineering in this project, Mr. Wise?
Yes, we have. That's what she's doing.
Are we
now.
still using exotic wood in this project?
No, ma'am, she's coming up with alternatives to be presented to this commission,
Then why isn't that reflected in this budget?
because it hasn't been thought upon. And the budget is not a line item budget, it is a debt.
Just a minute, Ms. Engelmann?
My concern is, I don't know about the Brazilian rainforest wood, but you know, I went to Buck and I priced the change. The change in the wood from what she wanted to what was $60,000. Okay, that sounds like, oh my God. But the thing about it is, these gentlemen are at this station 24 hours a day. If you don't think boredom plays a role in that, and they put the deck out there so they can go outside and sit, look at traffic. But my concern is, I think we should have a fire station on James Island. When somebody goes down Folly Road, they go, oh my God, look at that fire station, it's beautiful. Because you know what, have you seen the new city with, and I understand there's a different tax basis there because they're in the city budget. But we should have something on the island that we're proud of, not a brick building that they've had to come in and take asbestos out, and all the guys have been sitting in that TV room for years. but it's loaded with asbestos. So at what point are they gonna come back and say, I got lung cancer from asbestos? But we need a fire station that we could be proud of. They need a fire station that they can be proud of. They go to work in the morning, they go, wow, this is fabulous. And yet you have a little deck for them to go out to. You don't have to use Brazilian rainforest wood. There's other treated lumber that you can put out there to make a difference. But I think they need that to ease boredom and everything else. We've already changed it where they can't watch TV until after 5 o'clock. And, you know, you can only rake and sweep and, you know, pressure wash so much. But we've got to take care of the people that work for us. That's our my thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm ready to vote.
Just, Mr. Crouch.
You know, we talked about the $8 million fire station. We also have 3 more others fire stations that need to be looked at or rebuilt. I want to know, it doesn't reflect in the budget where that $400,000 that the county paid us for, was supposed to be for the fire station. What happened to that money? Ms. Gaines?
Ms. Lee, can you?
The former CFO mentioned in a prior meeting, that money had been spent, it had been rolled, when we got it, it put into the fund balance. So as part of that fund balance number, there's a proposal to reduce.
The one that we're trying to reduce.
That money has been,
Let me ask a question,
No,
Mr. Dean.
just,
Wait a minute, that $400,000, I thought it was supposed to, it was earmarked for the fire station.
it would have to be earmarked by the commission, and it was not earmarked to do that. And I
So
can't
that-
comment on why she said it was spent 4 times over, but it was, according to her, but that's, I don't know the reason why she
Mr.
would make that
Wise,
comment.
what happened to that
it was put into the general fund.
Let's put it in the fund balance.
and so we just spent it, so it wasn't for the fire station.
I don't know, I wasn't here on the commission.
Well, I was here.
You 3 were on the commission.
I was saying it was supposed to go for that was supposed to have been for the fire station.
Mr. Platt, you had your hand up.
Chair, as Commissioner points out, we're here from the staff, but also as a representative group and representative democracy. We also represent a lot of people up there, most of them taxpayers. And a year ago, cogent arguments, I think, were made as to why the budget for the current year, why it was necessary, and why no increase is necessary. But nevertheless, the people in fact said, we don't care, we don't want it, and they said that very, very effectively by voting out all 3 of the commissioners who had voted for the budget who were up for election. So I think to pass the budget with no millage increase is like perpetuating what the taxpayers rose up against a year ago.
Well, I have to chirp in a little bit on past budgets. $15, $20 million that I've worked with in different organizations. And whenever the bond was set so that there was a huge increase, and I was alive for some of that, it took about 2 years for the staff to realize some of what they had asked for could not come to fruition in that time frame. And there was it's like a wave. It comes up like this, and then it takes a little time for it to dribble back down. So, like I said, I was one of the people that was screaming the loudest about it. And I am finding that you cannot just come and take huge money.
I am.
That you just can't come in and say, okay, we're gonna knock yada yada amount of money out of the budget. Because there are things that have already been agreed to, there are contracts that are already done, there are processes that are already started. And the main thing is that we've done the contracts on it, and you cannot cancel them out in this year. Or you cannot cancel them out until the contract is completed. So it takes time to adjust on that. And I think a zero increase, which is what we have had presented to us, is acceptable for this first year. And the next year, and I want to remind everybody that we're going to have a reassessment year coming up next year. So if we take these and cut the money out of the budget this year, we could be looking at doubled problems come next year. I know that we're looking at this year right now, but I want to make sure that we've got all of the contracts covered and that we have enough money to pay our budget and our salaries and all of the things that we need to keep this place going and keep not cut services available for next year in the process of working through this coming year.
Madam Chair, you mentioned reassessment, but this body has no control over the reassessment. We do have control of other things, you mentioned salaries, and although I'll be very sad to see Mr. Wise go, I think he's done a fantastic job, although Jim don't know because of this, but he's made a decision to retire. I believe, beginning at the end of September. And there's an opportunity there for considerable savings. Mr. Gain was quite competent. I could see Mr. Gain being the acting district manager for the entire budget year. Commissioner Boozy did some research, and I believe the figure she came up with is by not filling the position, this kind of position, you save $12,500 a month, which is 2.5 times the 5,000 she was pointing out for tree signage.
I would like to see those numbers. I don't think that accurate numbers.
He's making $150,000 a year, what does that come up to? Isn't that what you're making, Mr. Wise? 150,000? How much are you making? Should be public health. State law? $104,000. Oh, I was off by 5,000.
And I've also been here for 20 years.
Okay, I've been recognized now, so can I call the question on her amendment and we vote on it?
Okay. Do we have need a second on that? We need a
Brown
second.
Crouch seconded already.
Who seconded?
Brown Crouch.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown.
Read the amendment
What
again.
are we voting on, sorry?
Your amendment.
Read it again, please.
And then we're gonna vote on the budget.
To amend the 2020 budget to reduce total expenditure on the fire station 1 replacement project by 5%.
Yes, okay.
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
Come back to me.
Commissioner
This is
Clifford.
called
No.
a question. This vote is called a question.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's not on this vote is to
She
close
called the
debate.
question and she seconded it, so we're voting whether we end debate, right?
On your amendment.
Oh, okay.
We're ending the
We're
debate on our
voting on
amendment.
ending the debate
And then we're
to
gonna vote on the
vote on the
budget.
amendment. Okay,
So who made
we're
that
voting
motion?
to end debate.
I thought
Start again.
Sandy did.
Start again, please.
So this motion is to close the debate.
Right.
Made by Ms. Engelmann and seconded by
Ms.
Brown
Brown.
Crouch.
Okay. Ms. Brown Crouch.
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
Come back to me.
Commissioner Clifford.
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann.
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Platt.
Aye.
Commissioner Poston.
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
Yes.
Motion
Okay,
carries.
so now we are back to the amendment to cut the expenditure for Fire Station 1 by 5%. Correct?
Yes.
And the seconded, so we can vote on it.
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
Come back to me.
Commissioner Clifford.
No,
Commissioner Engelmann.
hold on a minute. Gotta figure out. We're voting on her amendment to take
Right.
5%.
If you say yes, it's if you're voting for a 5%
No.
increase.
Commissioner Laughlin.
No?
Commissioner Platt.
No.
Commissioner Poston.
No.
Commissioner Woolsey. Commissioner Brown Crouch.
Yes.
Motion fails 2-5.
Okay, so now we're back to discussion on the main motion, which is to pass, the budget for first reading for 2019-2020. Am I correct?
Yes.
I'm correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Call the vote.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Pass.
Commissioner Clifford,
No.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes?
Commissioner Platt,
No.
Commissioner Poston,
No.
Commissioner Woolsey,
No,
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
No.
Motion fails.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Then roll call.
Roll call
Commissioner
vote.
Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
No.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yeah.
Commissioner Laughlin,
No.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Oh, no, I'm trying to decide, pardon me. No.
Commissioner Woolsey.
No.
Motion fails, 3-4.
It's your motion and you vote
I don't know, I kind of thought maybe other people
No,
want to
this
stick
is-
around, I'll stick around too. So now what do we do?
Okay.
Any more motions?
It failed. I mean, we didn't pass it, so
There's nothing else on the
there's
agenda.
nothing else.
Where do we go now?
Well, is more
Wait,
motion?
pardon me, well, yes, I was going to ask, are there other motions, but also,
There's no,
yeah,
that's
so
it.
is there something that we are able to do, move forward with the proposed budget, so then the meeting on the 24th, Monday, the 24th?
Well, there's nothing on the agenda.
Well, yeah, so I'm saying, but is there something else that we should,
But I would recommend to all department heads that maybe you should go back and see what equipment and what you really need.
Hang on just a minute. Okay.
You can't add any business to your agenda.
Once it's,
The only item on your agenda was first reading.
right.
And the only thing you can do at this point, is either move to reconsider that,
Mhm.
which would then have to be adopted, or adjourn, because you have no other business or plan.
well, if I may say, that is why I thought perhaps we do need to stay just, and hopefully not for that much longer, but so we can, because it seems like we're at a standstill and that, you know, obviously some things were covered, but some was not.
And that's why I was asking a question about the timeline for the first and second readings of the budget. That if we ensued in this lengthy debate, which I knew we would, because I don't think our goals as commissioners have changed, that we're still trying to find ways to cut, but I'm gonna give her a chance to, because she has to have a record.
We've got one. The recording still goes.
Yeah, the video's still going.
Alright, so the intent of the commission, I know it looks like we just don't get along up here. All we're trying to do is find the best way to serve the people of James Island without taking people's jobs and without cutting stuff. And so my question was, by not passing the first budget, are we just waiting, the debate process is only gonna occur whenever we, take it up at the second reading, and then we're still nowhere, and we're still screwed up on the timeline?
Then I have a question for the experts in general, and one of you guys stick your hand up or something. If we don't do this tonight, and I'll start with, that if we don't do this tonight, looking at the time frame that we already have a public hearing on Monday and quote unquote second reading on Monday, because our time frame is June the 30th to get the budget done. Can we, or do we have the time to meet all of the FOIA and the station and all of the rules and regulations to have another meeting in between here and Monday so that we do not cause us to go into July without a budget? And the only rule that we have is that we have to do a 36-hour announcement with an agenda prior to the meeting.
But I believe you also have requirements for posting the notice of the first reading and the budget in the newspaper.
We can do that.
As well as a newspaper notice
We can do
for,
that.
for the second reading as well, so I'd have to look at a calendar.
No, you don't have to do that.
So it's asking the question, the discussion, what would be done with that time, before the next meeting? Would you direct staff to, present a revised budget or what? Otherwise, I could see this thing still made.
Well, are there more motions? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I ask that question? Do we have more motions that we could
I've
do?
got some, but,
Well, we've already denied.
I wasn't gonna make all 10 tonight, Bob.
Just a minute. We've already denied the budget. So can we make a motion to amend the budget that was just denied?
Not without bringing it up under a reconsideration.
Somebody could bring it up for a
Madam Parliamentarian, obviously there was a little confusion about that, so would it be proper to allow people to change their vote on the matter of adjourning? While we're taking the vote to adjourn again?
The motion to adjourn failed, Mr. Brown.
But it did fail, but I think there's some confusion. I don't think people realized that there was nothing else in the agenda. Otherwise, I think it was, point.
Okay, question, go ahead.
The motion that we did pass, is it still sticking for the next one, or do we have to redo that?
No, ma'am, you have to redo it.
Okay.
It failed, the main motion
That's
failed,
right.
so the amendment is no good.
Why don't we meet Thursday?
I'm not available.
You're not?
No, I'm not.
Well,
I'm only
Wednesday
available
or
on Wednesday.
Friday?
The only day I will be available before Monday
There's
is
still
on
a
Wednesday.
public notice.
And Wednesday will not fit our criteria
Yes,
as far
so-
as all of the commission being here.
A lot of us, you know,
Well-
our schedules aren't.
For discussion purposes, I move that we reconsider the vote for the budget for 2019. Do I hear a second? For discussion purposes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I have one. We went to trouble and expense. We brought one of our experts down from Boston. I almost said Baltimore, I knew that was wrong. And, so he'll be staying over, and we've got some expense in this. I wanna get whatever the experts can do as far as our motions and things that are gonna be brought up, available to answer questions as to what is gonna be the problem, or what is gonna be appropriate for the motion. So I would like to have a reconsideration so that we can have some more motions, if anybody wants to do them,
Well,
for the general budget.
Did the motion fail on the first vote?
I just want to reconsider, so we can look at any additional things that people might want to do to the budget. Yes, ma'am?
And just as our budget this year governs this upcoming year. These are not changes that go into effect for the rest of time until the end of time.
Is that correct? I want to make sure that I'm
And then-
answering that correctly. The current budget will carry over to the new fiscal year. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. Your fiscal year is, I believe, July 1, June 3rd.
Right.
And in light of that, there is absolutely no way in a timeline that a millage decrease can take place between now and June 30th. Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
So then the only thing up for change or amendment would be moving line item, budget items, and we're being told that none of that can be, nothing can change.
Well, there will be one change. Come July the 1st, correct me if I'm wrong, but our financial status will change as far as being able to get loans. Our
No, I'm talking about with the budget itself.
I know,
If we're
I'm
looking
saying,
at lines going, we can't take
according,
4 for 3.
according to state rules and regulations and whatever else, because I'm not that versed in it, but we will go into the different budgetary, one of the financial experts help me out here. When we go into this year, into a new fiscal year, what's gonna happen as far as our ratings go?
Well, part of my job is to go back to Standard & Poor's and try to give you a little clemency. I think the strengths are there, and you need to be focused on your economic strengths, your financial strengths. But if you do tell you not to do, then I'm going to be very happy. Just makes it harder for you to get what you deserve.
Looking at my calendar,
Well, from a legal point of view, Sam,
What's gonna happen with our bonds and all the rest of it?
oh, whatever you, go ahead.
Well, I believe your bond documents say that you'll adopt an annual budget by, June 30th. So, that's a technical default under your outstanding documents. Since the debt is essentially all held by either the federal government or the state government, I don't expect that they would react in any sort of, negative way in terms of actually declaring a default. But they would have the leverage over you to get the budget passed promptly. I don't know what to expect otherwise.
You have a trustee on some of those bonds, don't you?
Yeah.
What would, work?
She's look to the state
Okay.
feds.
Okay, good, yeah.
Mr. George, if we don't do this, that's not gonna allow us to do the notice to proceed.
Well,
What kind of problems is that gonna cause us?
I think there's bigger problems, and I'll speak for the waste board for the enterprise account. The bigger problems are that we have two projects that have essentially made the short list of funding for SRF funds. One of them is a $1.4 million upgrade to Pump Station 2 that really has to happen. If not, we better stop development in the northwestern quarter of the island. The other is Pump Station 34 at Harborview and Michael, and then 22 behind the Harborview Shopping Center. We've been basically selected and I don't want to say pre-funded, but if the money's there, the SRF funding will be available. There's a lady named Tricia Kahn, who has been around a long time with the state, with SRF bonds and state budget controls. That lady knows this district very well. She knows the financial strengths and weaknesses of this district very well with respect to state revolving funds. My personal opinion, having served on this commission and been involved in several bond issues for SRF funding, is that if the district does not pass a budget in a timely manner before the deadline, then it will have adverse impacts upon the district's ability to get the SRF funding for those three very needed projects. That's my answer.
Mr. Madden,
The only thing you have pending, Mr. Chairman, is your motion to reconsider the vote on the first reading of your budget.
with your knowledge of the state and FOIA and all the rest of this, we gonna be digging a hole for ourselves in any way, shape or form, including our rules of procedure and everything else. I don't know the answer, so that's the reason I'm asking for help here.
Well, I'm not sure I understand that part of the question, okay? You can, if you fail to reconsider it, then you really do have to come back with something that is ever so slightly different. If you adopt a motion to reconsider and you don't want to continue tonight, you could recess and come back tomorrow, and work on it some more. First reading would still be in front of you. I think these gentlemen in the front row are cautioning you against doing nothing tonight. On the flip side of that, the political issues that Mr. Rhodes has raised are clearly here, and you, all of you, have been wrestling this evening with those political issues. I mean, the worst thing you can do is vote no on the motion to reconsider.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we reconsider
That motion's already on the table.
budget ordinance, everyone made that motion?
It's on the
made it, I
motion,
forgot to say.
and it's been seconded.
Oh,
So,
okay.
we're having a
I'd also
discussion
like
about
to
that.
point out, looking at my calendar here, we could do a first reading on the 24th and a second reading on the 1st of July. That'll just be 24 hours over the deadline, and I don't think anybody's gonna focus too much on that.
No, I disagree.
They don't care from what I have seen. If you're over the deadline, you're over the deadline.
One day is gonna make that much difference.
It's, deadline is a deadline.
Why don't we come back that Thursday if we do a first
We
reading
do it
Monday?
Sunday, we could do it Sunday.
Well, I mean, if we come back Thursday, that gives you time to advertise it. But I wish we'd redo this vote,
Come
not
back
have somebody
this,
have to change.
come back this Thursday or next
Next
Thursday?
Thursday, not this one, Mayor, next Thursday.
Well, then that's gonna change so that Monday will have to be the first reading.
Right,
And
Thursday would be
Thursday
the
will be the
second.
second reading, right?
So I think the suggestion is we want to vote to rescind that motion.
I would just, I mean, our motion right now is to reconsider for tonight.
Okay, I'm
So
ready
since
to
I
vote.
made the motion, I'll call for the vote.
well, I'd like to amend it a little bit, because I'd like to ask the ones that said no, to have the opportunity next day or Wednesday to send their things to Mr. Wise or Mr. Game or Mr. George or Sam Howell, and say, this is what I want.
There's not supposed to be any discussion. You can make your
I don't
vote,
think you can, make an amendment to, I mean, like that.
you can make the vote, and then you can do the discussion of why you voted the way that you did. But you know, so I've called a vote, so please,
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
this is the vote to reconsider.
Commissioner Clifford,
The vote to reconsider, yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes?
Commissioner Platt,
Oh,
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we're back to reconsider the main motion of passing the budget, first reading tonight. Second reading, if we pass it, will be next Monday. Or, you know, but does anybody have any motions that they wanna make for tonight?
Well, I'll try once again.
Okay,
I move to amend the 2020 budget for the debt service fund so that it equals the projected expense, reducing the net change in the debt service fund from $128,933 to zero, leaving the ending balance for the fund equal to the beginning balance of $1,000,000 $39,817. Well, I probably should just leave off just that last part and just say, leaving the ending balance in the fund beginning to the beginning balance. Just leave it at that.
Leave off the dollar amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, is that on this sheet, just estimate?
Yeah, I'm not really sure which one that is.
Reduce the debt millage so that the projected revenue for the debt service fund equals the projected expense, reducing the net increase in the debt service. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, but I've left out the words reduce the debt millage so that to projected revenue. I've left out those words because our attorney advised us not to talk about that.
Read it exactly the way you want it to
I
read.
move to amend the 2020 budget for the debt service fund so that the projected expense,
Go slow, because Ms. White has to write this down.
Go ahead.
reducing the net change in the debt service fund from 128, 933 to 0,
Say it again. 128.
933 to 0, leaving the ending balance of the fund equal to the beginning balance. So we've got in the budget, what's that?
No, sorry.
Well, hang on just a minute. I need to hear a second before we.
Okay.
I'll second it. We'll discuss.
Okay. Sure.
All right, the debt millage budget, debt service. I'm losing this one.
I'm reading on behalf of Kathy Woolsey because she's losing her voice. So what she's talking about was a zero surplus in the debt service fund. The draft budget increases the balance in the debt service fund by $128,000 because there's more in there than needed to complete a projected expense in 2020. And then the excess tax revenue beyond the debt service expense is a surplus. So reducing it down to 0 will help.
So we're getting more money in that fund than we need. We've had enough in that fund to handle what we're doing, and we don't need to have a surplus in there.
So can you ask a question?
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm gonna ask Mr. James first.
Well, I think Mr. Powell can answer that, that if we reduce, first we gotta have a balanced budget by state law, so that won't balance that way. Second, if we reduce, they could call for a debt service reserve on all our past and current debt services.
Just,
He doesn't understand. He
but
doesn't
he has
understand.
the floor. Keep going.
There's information in A through G, or A through I, and all the information out there. They don't have all pieces of the puzzle and make these assumptions they're making. If the balance on the budget, but they can call for debt service reserve on all the past and current. So more money's gonna be tied up to 10%, I think that's correct.
Well,
that's
the average.
This, I think, is this the
This is
tax?
number 3.
Yeah, but what is this, the general obligation bonds or the revenue bonds?
Revenue bond.
No, no.
Debt service bond. That's debt service bond.
That's general one?
No, we'll
Jim.
be-
Come on, Mr. George, if you could.
The way I read this, I'm sorry, the way I read this is general obligation bond reserve that's been reduced. correct?
That's what it sounds like to me, too. That if,
Right here and open.
one thing that I have a problem with, and I'm not sure who to ask when
Yeah, you talk about the millage, so this is the general obligation.
The
Debt service fund.
Right. Debt service fund.
Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a state law that says if we decrease the millage, that the next year it's gonna be reversed by a larger increase?
There is no state law. There is no state law.
And if I am correct, it's SPD, it's the state statute 6-11-99.
What does it say?
Indicates that if we do a decrease in the debt millage, it must be reversed by a larger increase.
611 what?
6-11-99.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Would you like me to address this statute?
Please,
Right.
please.
We'll do some sharing.
There's a copy of record here, I think it is.
I don't remember.
Can y'all
Some
run
numbers.
2
Does everybody
copies,
have one?
3 copies of that? Or
Anybody
I'll
have?
share.
Here, no, there you go.
No, no.
You don't want?
Okay, so there are several considerations to bear in mind in reducing the amount held in a debt service fund to pay general obligation bonds. Some of them are legal, and I'll address those, but some of them are also have a financial impact beyond just the legal impact, and I think Mr. Canning would be the person to try to answer those. So, what you have before you is a pretty straightforward statute. I highlighted the section, I think, that applies here. Basically, for general obligation bonds, they're payable by property tax dollars. The county auditor must impose sufficient millage on the tax bill to pay all general obligation bonds that will be paid off that are due that year. And then the county treasurer is required to collect it. And so that's the bottom line on from year to year, what has to happen. Now, several factors in that. One, of course, is that the estimates of collections rarely equal, what the actual collections are. And since the credit of not only the district, but even the state would be impacted, so the auditor will want to have a margin in there to ensure that the collections are slow for whatever reason from the taxpayers, that there will be sufficient money collected on time to make the payments. Now, the second aspect of it is that when the district is going to issue some new general obligation bonds for a project like the fire station, let's say the schedule, I understand, will be issued sometime this fall, most likely. All right, well, that will be after this year's tax bill is put together and mailed. So obviously, this year's tax bill will not reflect those bonds being issued. However, those bonds will certainly have to be paid in part, the first interest payments and probably principal payments according to the schedule I've seen, sometime during fiscal year 2019-2020. So there are essentially two ways to pay that. One is to have a reserve that's earmarked for that purpose, and then so you have the money in the bank, and then it can be used to make the payment. The second is to borrow it. So you borrowing money to pay for borrowed money, which is not, it's as inefficient as it sounds, but sometimes that's done. I would not recommend that approach, but you could increase the size of the bond issue to include that first payment, but that also means you're paying interest on top of money that's supposed to pay interest. So those are the legal restrictions. I mean, I'm not getting into the numbers or whatever that you have before you. I don't know the numbers. But that's what you need to be prepared to pay, is full debt service of the outstanding bonds with some margin of error in foot collections, and the first payments, or the first fiscal year payments for the new debt for the fire station. Now, Mr. Candy can explain the sort of financial ramifications to your bond ratings and that sort of thing from making a move like this right before bond issue.
Please interrupt me if I get a diversion to not talk too much. Basically, you've got I think in your package you should have a copy of the Standard Poor's comments from last year. Well, that would we'd be going back to the general obligation bond rating. Some of it they would be bigger issue than anybody else in Illinois. Slight them by giving the rating for the GO, trying to resuscitate the revenue market. Yeah, that's it. One of the mitigating factors that they apply, at least strongly, in the process of evaluating the rating will take you down a notch last July was strong liquidity that they discussed. Of course, that's for the proprietary bond. Same thing applies, same thinking, same standards apply for the general obligation. Yeah, if you diminish your liquidity, you have to borrow using TANs, which is an indication that you have money in the bank, pay until the tax revenues arrive. These things are taken into account. It's not going to help the process. The financial consequence of that is being higher interest rates.
Say that one more time.
Financial consequence of lower bond ratings is higher interest rates. The taxpayer will pay it over time. Issuing 20-year bonds,
I don't understand how we're reducing liquidity. All we're saying is we're gonna keep the money we got, which is plenty to pay off what we have, but we're just not increasing that amount this time. We've got the money there, and we're going to, we just don't wanna add to a fund that we have plenty into.
I would need to examine the numbers and the accounts more closely in order to give you an exact answer on that. But we performed a village impact analysis that we're only able to get out over the weekend. Didn't have information to them. But we've added some.
I'm not taking this fund to zero, I'm just keeping it the same. I'm not adding to it, I'm not taking away from it, I want the fund to remain the same because we have enough in it to pay back.
Let me ask a question, I guess maybe James would be the best person to answer this. The item that I was asking about over the weekend, the unexpected grant monies, is that expected to be repeated in the future?
Grant monies?
Yeah.
We don't have any grant money.
Was that last year?
FEMA money?
Was that FEMA money?
That's probably FEMA money, it's all right.
Oh, okay, well,
That was the payback from 2017.
And I added it into the top line of the road numbers you had to subtract to get to the balance.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, is I don't understand how that recurs. And if it doesn't, then how do we get the same balance?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah. So there are a lot of questions we need to be able to answer.
Mr. Chairman, we have all these experts here, and I would like to call my own expert to explain to him what I'm trying to say here. I would like to call Professor Bill Woolsey up, and maybe he can explain it much better than I can. Mr. Woolsey, would you like to explain this to Mr.?
I'd be glad to.
Do we have, I guess
Well,
nobody's
and
objecting.
this is gonna be an explanation from a county viewpoint, right?
Yes.
So, John and
Stand up.
I know I've worked you all many times, and I've looked at this budget, and your debt, the debt fund is a little over $1 million.
Please.
Excuse me. There is a balance of over $1 million in the debt service fund. The revenue projected to go into the debt service fund next year is $1.2 million under the current millage. The expense for that that's supposed to come out of that fund right now is about $1 million. The difference between how much money goes in and how much is supposed to go out next year, including the projected cost of the $8 million worth of bond finance, that's included in that amount. You're projected to collect more revenue in that fund by $128,000 than how much you project to spend, including about $9 million of new borrowing over the next year. So if we just look at how much the district already owes, the amount of debt service is less than half of the amount of revenue that you're supposed to collect. But you are projecting borrowing $9 million and having an additional $400 million or so for $500 million. And so the revenue is 1.2 and the expense is about 1. So if the millage is reduced so that the revenue is just equal to the expense, then the balance will remain at $1 million over the year. So at the beginning of the year, right now, it's supposed to be a little over $1 million. At the end of the year, it will still be about $1 million. There'll be no decrease in the liquidity in the debt services fund. There will not be a projected increase by collecting higher taxes than you project to spend on the debt service fund next year. So that is the nature of this proposal. It is not to reduce liquidity, it is just not to increase it later. What was told to you, I mean, what I understand is told to you that the proposal was to take the money that is currently in the debt service fund, about $1 million, and reduce that to zero. If they did that, I don't think that's legal, but if it were done, you could reduce the millage on the debt millage to practically zero, to about 0.3. Of course, next year, you would have no money, and you would be required by the auditor to increase the millage back up to where it started. But that's not the proposal. It was never the proposal to take the money that's currently in the debt service fund and reduce that to zero. It was to keep that money the same and just not increase it by about $128,000 in the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
So that's the explanation.
I just want to, I'm going to call on Mr. Dean in just a second, because I think you'll be doing a better explanation than I had. But I'm looking at what was proposed. This is the proposed budget, and it's on page 19 of the information, the proposed budget that is being passed out. And I looked exactly with what Mr. Woolsey had just said, and down under the bottom it says over or under to cover next year's debt service payments. And using the numbers that we have right now, I see a $35,907 deficiency that we would have to carry over to next year. If you reduce it any more, you're going to reduce, we're going to have a larger deficiency to carry over to next year. Page 19.
I need to go because I need payment bills. And are we having the 2 meetings next week?
Not 2 meetings on Monday yet.
Monday, I'm talking about, go to first reading on Monday.
I don't know yet. I'm hoping that we will pass the first reading on Monday.
I move to adjourn.
I second it.
No, we're in the middle of something.
I'm leaving.
A motion has been made to adjourn. It overrides any other motion. Oh, that's true. I did not.
Okay.
I'm afraid I cannot recognize. I'm looking at,
I think that Commissioner Damon was in distress, and you looked at it in such a way that can reasonably take and recognizing her.
I cannot recognize her right this second. I have to make just one little point, and I'm going to ask Ms. Dean to see if I say this wrong. But according to what was proposed to us, there's going to be, with these numbers, without doing any kind of reductions in what's being proposed in this motion, there's a $35,907 deficiency in the debt service to carry over to next year. So I am totally against this motion.
That,
You got enough in the balance to pay next year's debt service payments, and that's what that shows. There's not
And
enough.
that's against the law, is it not?
There's not enough, but Mr. Kenny was gonna elaborate on that a little bit.
Mr. Kenny?
We
Mr.
did
Kenny,
a,
Mr. Platt,
yes,
Mr. Kenny?
we performed that, preliminary analysis with respect to the millage impact of the new debt, in combination with the existing debt, taking on some capital leases and so forth. We came up with a number that, averaged out about 11.5 mils, all requirements, tax supported debt, including the, capital leases. I zero out the debt service millage, and not at all on the capital leases.
We didn't say that. You weren't listening.
So just to the prior comment, so I need more time to work on precise numbers, but I don't think you're gonna get very far from 11 to 12 mils, based on what I've seen from the audits, okay?
So, again, I'm back to I call the vote. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So our vote is on the reconsidered main amendment, main motion of passing the 2019-2020 budget. First reading.
To close debate.
Okay.
The first vote is to close debate.
This was to close debate. So,
I second that.
okay, where it is. This is to close debate. Thank you. I told you I needed help.
and have a motion on the table.
Thank you. And now the
Yes,
motion
you did.
is what Ms. Woolsey has proposed to put on on the floor. To, put the debt millage so that projected revenue equals, Tamara, would you say it?
Okay, this is what I have. To, amend the 2020 budget to reduce
The debt millage.
blank, no, she crossed that out. To reduce for the, so there's a word missing after reduce.
Debt service fund.
Debt
Yeah.
service funds so that the projected expense,
Reduce the debt service fund so that the projected expense, reducing the net change in the debt service from $128,933 to $0, leaving the ending balance in the fund equal to the beginning balance.
we'll fix it sometime.
Do we need to vote on closing the debate?
Unless you do it without objection.
Yes, let's do it without objection.
What did she say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We don't have to.
We can close the debate without objection.
Mr. Watt, Mr. Platt has a motion.
I know what it's gonna be.
I know.
I wanna get this vote done tonight,
Okay,
one
let's
way,
vote on
shape, or
this,
form.
Let's vote on her. Roll call, please.
This is for the amendment or close the debate?
Just for the minute.
We don't have to vote to close the debate.
I thought we had to close the
Yeah,
hearing.
they did it before.
We're supposed to close the debate unless it's by agreement that we have it, that the debate is closed.
Let's go.
Motion to close the debate. Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann?
Closing debate.
Close the
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Platt?
Aye.
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so now we're back to the motion
Amendment.
that Commissioner Woolsey proposed,
Yes.
that basically takes the debt service fund to $0, so that, just a minute, so that the ending balance is equal to the beginning balance.
So, did I have Bill say it?
No, we,
No, okay.
Let's have the commissioner say it.
All right, let me find it again. The debt service fund for the projected expense, so that reducing the net change in the debt service fund from 128,933 to 0, leaving the ending balance to the fund equal to the beginning balance. So the balance is gonna remain the same on that fund. We're not taking in more money than we need.
From an accounting perspective, what that's gonna do is the 35,000 you see
did,
under,
yeah,
the 128 is gonna add to that, so we'll be even more under
right.
the payments next
That's what
year.
I said a few minutes ago.
Right,
Make
correct.
the deficiency even worse. Okay.
If we leave it to 1039.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Come back.
Commissioner Clifford,
No,
Commissioner Engelmann.
no, we voting on her motion?
Yes. We are voting on her motion.
No.
Commissioner Laughlin,
No.
Commissioner Platt,
No,
Commissioner Poston,
No.
Commissioner Woolsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown Crouch.
No.
Motion fails.
Mr. Platt?
that was adjourned.
Thank you.
You got a call,
We got to do a roll call vote.
but did you want to do any more motions?
Just a second.
I hadn't prepared to do any more. Thank you for asking. I would like, the information I've been given and I've been working on in the direct, I would like an updated, this, sheets that they gave me, because apparently, I've been working from the wrong numbers, and I believe there was a line that was disappeared and put back. I would like the whole thing sent to me again by email if possible.
Would all the commissioners like that, because the one that you got in your proposed budget has not changed.
I mean, you guys
But
are accusing me.
I understand there was a
Proposed-
line missing that was disappeared or something.
But that was in the Ways and Means Committee's budget where they found $120,000 because the line didn't print. And then there was 923,000 equipment vehicles, which brought that total to 639. But the proposed budget was still short 35,907, and
We were back to
Would you send
having,
the corrected version?
we were back to having a
Same
main
one, but I'll send
motion
it to her.
on the floor.
Send the same one again.
I'll send it as well.
Send it to all the commissioners, please.
We have a motion to adjourn and it's been seconded.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford, Commissioner Engelmann,
Yeah.
Commissioner Laughlin,
No, I want to get a final vote.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Oh, we didn't get a final vote on the first reading?
No.
Oh, no.
Commissioner
I'm
Woolsey.
changing my vote. I want the first reading done.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Um,
What do I do?
we've got a change of vote. Would you please call the roll one more time
Okay. To adjourn?
to adjourn?
No.
we challenge the ruling of the chair so that we can revote on what, on the adjournment motion, is that correct?
That is
That
correct.
will rule by 2/3?
Adjourn's a simple majority.
Well,
But that's what,
she's challenging the vote of adjournment. And so that challenge requires a revote, hasn't it? Or a vote on the challenge?
We have somebody who wished to change her vote before the vote was announced and finished.
Okay,
That's just like holding your vote to the very end.
okay, so we don't need a revote, we just need, or do we all need to say our vote again?
That's up to Tamara's ability to deal with what she heard.
So just throw that away and start over?
She wants to hear it again.
So
This is
we're
the
now
motion
voting
to
on
adjourn?
To adjourn.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
To adjourn?
yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
no.
Commissioner Engelmann,
No.
Commissioner Laughlin,
No.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
No.
Commissioner Woolsey.
No.
Okay, so we are back to the main motions that I started with 2.5 hours ago of passing first reading on the 2019-2020 budget.
There's one amendment. One amendment.
Right.
One amendment that was approved. Yes.
And I second that with her one amendment.
Okay, it's already been seconded.
I
Been
think
seconded.
we're ready to vote.
So
Let's
we're
vote.
back to the main motion of passing first reading on the ordinance.
You made the motion?
I did,
Okay.
Commissioner Engelmann seconded.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
No.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes?
Commissioner Platt,
No.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries. Five to zero.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been fun, but not that much.
That's.
Quick do a vote, Tamara.
Seconded.
Kathy, second.
Commissioner Brown Crouch, Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes,
Commissioner Platt,
thank you.
This is to adjourn?
yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and putting up with